for having accepted our invite to be a part of the Quest for Excellence series. It is great to have you on our series as one of the, really accomplished and, successful leaders in our industry. When one sees your journey over the last 2 decades plus, you had a beginning in sales with companies like AstraZeneca and then Novo Nordisk, and then wound yourself into the training function, made it your career calling, and then you excelled yourself so well, and then you went on to head the training and L&D functions in Novo Nordisk, and now you head not only the L&D OD but also the entire capability building function for Biocon. So our viewers would actually they have been exposed to previous episodes on this series where leaders come and they share their life's journey with them, and essentially around what it takes to drive or achieve standards of excellence. So it's going to be an interaction which everyone looks forward to, and certainly from you, because you are an L&D professional, so it would always be interesting to hear your thoughts around capability building.
Actually, I would like to say that pleasure is all mine. Having been in touch with professionals, pharma is a small world, and of course we are part of the small world. Yes, you're right that I've been working with these two companies for a large period of time. However, the growth has been from sales to training, and we will talk more about it.
Yes, so nice. So, I want to kickstart our conversation, Srinivas, today by, turning the clock back, when you started your career way back in the 90s. And I know it's always nice to look back and probably see it from a different perspective than what it was when you actually began that journey. But then you always have that benefit of hindsight, isn't it? So, when you started your career, and I see that you had a very rich and successful stint of almost about 8.5 to 9 years in sales, right? About 1.5 years at Astra, and a significant time in Novo Nordisk, first as a marketing executive and then as a frontline business manager. So 8 years is a good time to spend in sales, learn the nuances. So my first question is, was it by design, or you just were playing it out and then looking for the next best opportunity to move into something that would be your calling? How was it at that point of time when you were in the sales role?
Yeah, honestly, not by design. Okay. I picked up sales in the beginning because pharmacy after education, as a choice, sales was the first career where I started. And I also left Astra to complete MBA and was doing a project with you also in good old days. Still remember on brand building with AstraZeneca. The actual ambition was, how do I shape up my career from sales to marketing? However, my dual specialization during the MBA, which helped me to learn also human resource. Okay. At one point of time, I had it in mind that is there, while this is my primary driver, carve out a career from sales to marketing. But it happened after a few days when, because it's a long tenure, and Novo Nordisk, honestly, had a culture of helping people explore their true potential, not necessarily based on their qualifications, but based on their passion and interest. In one of the assessment center, which happened in Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore, a professor, showed me that my score was the highest in people development. Okay, so they assessed for different competencies, and he said this one peaks, highest in the group itself. So the feedback came, and that's when the feedback started working on my mind, and I was looking for an opportunity to use that as a strength rather than just chasing what I want. I thought maybe tapping into what is natural for me would be an interesting career choice, and eventually one day it happened that I got a chance, and then shifted the boat from from sales to training. And within 6 months, I understood that it was a good decision, turned out to be that, I really love what I do. So being there from then onwards, from the last 1.5 decades.
This has been really interesting to kickstart the conversation, because that was obviously I was going to ask the next question is, after just 8 years of being in sales function at a very young age, I'm sure, you decide to take your career on a trajectory of training and development of people, where in those days it was considered something as a resting position for senior regional and area managers of 40, 45 years who have
Absolutely.
since of 15 years. Chalo, head office mein aa jao, now do some training for the salespeople. But I'm really impressed that you took this calling based upon the feedback you got at the IMB assessment center, and you decided to act on it. You decided to put your mind into it, and then you said, yes, I will shape it. And it takes a lot, actually, because rather than just chasing what the world is probably chasing, or what you want to do, you decided to go with that recommendation, right? How did it happen, Srinivas? I mean, what does it take to do this? This is something I would want to know. Yeah, what does it take? I mean, was it just that you put faith into that, or what was it?
I think in the beginning, it is not as easy as I am saying now today. Okay. It's quite natural to have butterflies or even eagles, not only butterflies, in the stomach to go on the hunch what you are getting. I did also hear many people within my friends, colleagues, well-wishers saying probably it's not the best decision. Yes, the same words. Training is for someone. It's like a parking lot, and okay, after 10, 15 years of experience, if you still want to do this, you can. But why when you are still so young, early 30s? I think quite young and kicking. So. But yes, the only thing which kept me there was the interest in the role.
Yes.
In fact, we used to run, the initial project was obviously in farmer training. What happens is the first responsibility is to build newcomers into productive employees. So obviously that was the first project which I also started working upon as a training professional. We would have batches month after month, month after month, month after month. Given the attrition in pharma industry, a tune of 25-30%, for a field force of 1,000 or so, that means in a year 250 to 300 people, and in a month easily 30-40 new employees. So while others would say, how do you do it repeatedly, every month? But it was never same for me, because every batch is different, every person is different, their needs are different. So I just listen to probably what my heart says, that go on, rather than growth. At that point of time, my focus was on excelling what I take up.
Wow.
And first 8 years, it also taught me that if one of the tough lesson what we learned there is, learning is not just limited to the academic years. Rather, it must be also an equal focus when you are working. And if you learn regularly, probably growth chances are higher. Having come from an humble background and also qualified from average, schools, colleges, so very honestly, I can say that there was initial hesitation to face people who were from IIMs and who were from premier institute. But I realized that if I have hunger for learning continuously, okay, I one day will not be lagging behind. So very honest submission, I think that's what I'm saying. But if I look forward, look back in that 1.5 years journey, training has moved from good to have department to must to have. If organizations have to survive today constant changes, they need the employees constantly learn. And pharma is no different than any other industry. The changes are quite frequent. We are witnessing VUCA like anything. And if organization has to sustain, live, and grow, they have to learn. And if they have to learn, they need learning professionals. And I think I see more logic, and that's why training has moved in the last 2 decades from good to have to must have. I'm happy to be here in this space, looking back.
Very nice. No, I think two very important points or messages that you have set out at the beginning of our conversation today is one is that you loved what you did, and that is to build and develop people. It is not everybody's cup of tea, to be honest. It is very easily said, but it can't be done because you've got to be committed to it. And I think what you said is very important. You loved what you did because you wanted to pursue it. You are committed to the cause of building and developing people. And I think second very important point that I made note of what you said is you were hungry for learning. So even your humble background made you say that I want to keep learning and invest in learning for the first 8, 9 years before I set up. I think these two traits, I think they are, I think Srinivas, for me, these two traits, are what you call as non-negotiables. No matter how fancy as an industry we will become, digital industry, go-to-market models may change strategically, but the individual needs to have these two traits. I mean, would you agree that basically when you enter and when you want to build your career, right?
I think you summarized it beautifully. It was standing on these two pillars. Many times we don't realize what is good for now. We may think it is, a challenge, but working on that becomes our strength in future. So being humble in the past probably gave me strength to, not lose focus on self-development.
Right. That brings me to the second piece of the same point of discussion, Srinivas, is with that, solid sales experience that you had in the field, right, with Novo as an ME and as an area business manager in Maharashtra, because I know I worked with you as well. You come into the head office. So obviously you have to break that barrier of acceptance by the head office colleagues because you're coming in with a so-called typecasting. He's an executor or he is just, he's from sales, right? So ye to tactical wala aadmi hai, that kind of thing. Now you have to build out that credibility. But absolutely, it is very important that when you get into training, your credibility gets more enhanced when you are from the field and you know exactly what is working and what is not working. What would you like to say about that? Is that true? And how did you face any initial challenges of acceptance, and then you built your credibility around it? How was it? How was that part of the piece?
No, absolutely. I think not many times people get an advantage to move from existing role to a trainer role where you go back and help others learn who are in that role. So it happened with me, and you said it right, Shailesh, that yes, that was actually a benefit. How I built credibility and acceptance? Yes, there was challenge. Okay, but credibility slowly, it inbuilt because I spoke their language. What difficulties they face, what challenges they face, what works, what doesn't work, what they think and believe. I also came from the same belief. So I inbuilt in the training curriculum, in the methodology of delivery, like for example, case approaches. Earlier, I'm talking about 2002, 2005, 2006, when in the initial years of my training profession, talking from the science, was the only part of training. Skills, was not the real focus. So when I brought in relevance, saying that why skill will help you, giving the examples and case studies from their own field, okay, people started seeing logic, and I think that turned out to be an advantage
Right.
in building the credibility.
In building the so that's interesting observation you bring in. Why this is not only unique to your previous organization, this was endemic to the industry as at that point of time, and I very well remember that skill building was not really the forefront or the front ending piece or the objective of developing capability. It was more about rote detailing, making the call, an efficiency driven model rather than building for the future. So was it short-sighted thinking? And now when you look as an L&D professional, or was it that, no, it was probably right because the demands were that at that point of time? How would you want to respond to that, Srini?
Looking back at that point of time, probably, yes, industry might have not realized it at that time. However, our industry, when we are talking about pharma industry, believes in, once it is established, evidence based. When people start seeing evidence, their buy-in comes in quite naturally. So when I spoke the language, I wasn't aware that I was speaking this language, but I was actually speaking this language when I bring evidences that, see, having this skill has helped this person, versus there is another person who is very good at understanding the product, etc., but he lacks few skills, and you can clearly see how both engage customer. Just giving you one example.
Yes.
And when people saw that skill matters, not just the knowledge, the focus, started shifting. Yes, skill building must be, the priority.
Skill building. Excellent. So I think the third important message you have said is when you see the proof of concept in action, or when you see evidence of
Evidence.
really being useful, I think then the momentum gathers around that initiative, and people are ready to throw in their weight and say, yes, I think he's making a real credible point, which cannot go unnoticed. I think that's also very well said. Now, I want to spend some time on, your 30 and a half to 14 long years with Novo Nordisk, right, which is the world's leader in diabetes care, and perhaps even today, the most admired company in the country for diabetes care management at all levels, products, peoples, etc. So when you came into the organization and you grew into field training and later on training for the employees, how was your journey? How did you, because it was a well-oiled machine, great products getting launched from time to time, people were there. How did your role build out, and how did you support? If you can just let our people know, that would be very nice to hear that journey.
Within Novo Nordisk, am I right?
Yes,
I got
yes, yes.
Yeah. Being successful sales first line manager was also a barrier, because people want you in the same role. So, however, when I moved into the training role, there were two, challenges. One, when we talk about managers, yes, focus of pharma has been always the reps. But if managers have to be, evaluated versus the importance on skill building, with a skilled manager, you are able to develop 8 reps, considering the span on an average 6 to 8. Whereas a skilled rep probably, adds value to customers, of course, but he doesn't influences beyond that. So skill building for managers must be, a priority, which industry realized. I'm not saying we brought that realization, but as the time moved, industry realized, and we got benefited from that. So the demand started from rep focus to manager focus, and we weren't prepared for it. Okay. Having learned how to build sales capabilities, suddenly shifting gears to build managerial capabilities was not a smooth change. It required some preparation. So I think thanks to the management of the organization, which started at the corporate level, initiatives of helping the learning professionals to learn how to, build managerial capabilities and then execute. There was a kind of preparatory time, and we had a couple of initiatives which were targeted at the managers, and slowly the changes started, becoming visible in terms of manager behaviors. Manager behavior is so critical. I'm sure you know this, that when you smile you have an impact. When you know don't smile, you have an impact on your team member. But as an individual, if I don't realize the impact I'm having on the other person, I behave how I feel, cannot be the call of a manager. I have to behave how it is, received. Okay. So building that conscious among managers started, bringing the results. So I think that was the first challenge, if I can reflect upon, after spending 2 years or so in, sales capability development and working with some amazing, HR professionals. I was actually blessed to be coached by some of the great HR directors who gave this perspective. I was in and out a sales professional coming into sales training. But if I have to develop myself as an HR professional, not just as a sales training professional, I think then the next 3 years of self-development helped. So through this, I'm just sending one message, Shailesh, that a learning professional, whichever industry they are, they must be at the front of learning. Though they are discharging the knowledge, skill, what they have to help others. And that's how the role is saw. Now, actually, the definition has fast changed. But unless and until you are learning continuously, you won't be able to transfer that, and you won't be able to help others learn faster.
Right. No, that's a beautiful point that you put out again. Message number 4 is, be the change that you want to see in a way.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Because if you can't be the change agent yourself by being at the forefront of learning, as you so nicely said, then you cannot expect change to permeate down the pyramid at the level of the employees, because it is you who has to take the onus and make it happen, right? And that's a very valid point, Srinivas. I just wanted to ask on the subject of HR professionals. Many organizations have L&D or training as a function which is solely responsible under the training person, right? Some just have it as an HR, as a dotted line interface, whereas in other organizations you have HR and L&D working very intimately, very closely, because at the end of the day both are accountable for shaping the employee and training him and developing him and building him into an outstanding asset. What's your take? Is it a joint responsibility, or is it something which should be compartmentalized? Or how has it been in your journey? What is your thoughts around this? I just wanted to hear.
Different organizations have different approach, but generally we see sales training as a separate function. Many organizations have that function within sales itself,
right?
Or they would bucket into sales excellence, kind of role,
right?
And they will also continue to have a corporate training team which looks into other capabilities, not necessarily only sales capability.
Right.
But my take is slightly different. I would like to share from my personal experience that a training person within pharma, even if you are taking care of commercial capability development or sales training, you will have to sail on two boats. One is sales department and another is HR. Unless and until this team doesn't know how to connect both, okay, it's very difficult. For example, only focusing on sales training probably is most appreciated by the sales teams, sales professionals, sales leaders, because they can see that starts benefiting now. But if the focus of the sales leaders is only now and not future, we must also spend some time in building capabilities which may be utilized in times to come. And when I say times to come, not 5 years from now, 2 years from now, probably a year from now. If there is a high potential sales professional, okay, yes, he must be provided more opportunity to build sales capabilities, because he's already potential and probably he can become a star performer, okay, not only in country but probably in the entire globe for that company. However, if that person also has an ambition to or potential to become a manager, and I think keeping that in mind, as an HR person, if I start thinking, how can I build some of the managerial competencies in this person while he is in sales itself. Right. So manager training need not start once the promotion happens and he holds the visiting card of area sales manager. It can probably begin a year ago, so that he utilizes this time, because after you become manager, you're accountable for 8 people results, and right. You don't have so much of time to learn.
Right. Absolutely. No, I think you put that point very well, that one is on the immediacy, but one is also keeping one eye on the future, right? Sales training it's like batches in, batches out, because of the attrition rates that is constant at 15-20% a year. And then you also need to build capabilities which is not today, it's for tomorrow and beyond. So you've got to ensure that the HR through the lens, they also see it in the same way as you. But I think that's a very valid point. I had a question, Srinivas. You've traversed this journey now for almost 1.5 decades in pure training and L&D, and you must have seen a lot of evolution or changes, not just in sales training, but also in marketing, training, because you interface with brand managers and organizations. You have seen brand managers when you were a sales rep during cycle meetings. You have seen brand managers in action when they used to come for brand planning meetings, and you've been a part of it. Today, you're sitting at a little higher level of the pyramid where you can see the entire cross-functional interaction of sales, marketing, training team of yours, whether it, in Biocon or no, interact very closely and build out brands, which are ultimately the most important assets. Uh, what is it fair to say that capability building of sales is very well developed? You have training programs, you have a lot of stuff going on, first line, second line, this thing. How is it for marketing? How has it been? What are your thoughts around marketing skill building or capability building as an L&D professional? Now I'm asking you this question from the L&D piece, not from a marketing or a BU head or an HR piece. What do you see gaps? Do you think some things are good, some things can be improved from a pure learning and development standpoint? Because this is very important, because marketing is it's a function which is driven by a lot of skills and capabilities and talent, of course. So what's your take on that? I just thought initial thoughts around it from an L&D.
Yeah, absolutely. I personally believe, as a learning function, the kind of justice we try to do for sales function, building capabilities in the sales, I wish we could do with the same intensity for marketing as well. There could be various reasons, okay, but I it's my perspective. Why do I say that? Is if I take my own personal experience, there were days when marketing professionals were excelling purely based on sheer their talent. Okay, so if organization sees their talent and potential to be groomed into marketing, they move into marketing and they excel in what they do and they learn on the job. But designed learning, which comes from either organizations internally or external programs which helps people build marketing capabilities, came only after some time. Okay, so yes, probably in the last 1 decade or so, there's so much of investment is happening in the industry. We can see that we're focusing on functional capabilities, brand building, brand planning, etc. However, I still see when I network around with marketing professionals beyond our organizations also, that while the scope is more, still the justice to bridge that gap is not much. One example, one organization focused on a different capability which could be helpful for not only marketing but anyone, say design thinking. And design thinking, of course, now it's a fashionable word to have a cap of design thinking professional. Yes, it works, but in the beginning, to have probably a marketing professional understand and use it for their advantage, there wasn't buy-in immediately, or in the initial stage when design thinking was still a nascent concept or a new concept. But yes, having adopted, people have started seeing the benefit and using, but still not many, not everyone. So I just plucked one example to justify my claim that I wish we could do more justice. And I feel it's more strategic role and strategic capabilities. Sometimes they are talent and probably it's natural to those professionals who hone them over a period of time, right from their education times. Okay, it's not a quick skill which can be learned, but however we can't say that it can't be developed. You can always do efforts to develop, and I feel honestly industry can do a little more, even in the fraternity of L&D professionals. When we gather together in the conversations what we have, 90% of the time we talk about building commercial capability, means sales capability. But I think another big large piece under some commercial capability is marketing. So there is a scope, is what my take is.
Brilliant. I think you have answered my question, because that is always a little bit found wanting, even when we interact from an external standpoint as coaches and consultants, that it needs to be given due. And that's what you spoke about, functional competencies. Why there is also behavioral competencies of marketeers,
Yes,
which is not being addressed at all, Srini.
absolutely.
Talk about behavioral competencies for sales, because you have been through all that. I have been through it. But for marketeers, which is also important, because he's also a customer facing function as much as a sales guy is. And I think these are some of the areas where I think we need a
I
lot of.
would like to take an
Please, please,
quote an example. The moment when you said this, something struck me. I
please.
had recently a one-on-one conversation with a very close friend who is also a marketing professional, and he mentioned about how collaboration as a training, not necessarily the program, but the concept seeded with him long time back, about 2 years ago, starts helping him now because he is not waiting. He says, what's the change it has made is I'm not waiting to collaboration to happen. I am actually working on how collaboration can happen with me in the front end.
Right.
So, and he said that excelling in marketing, in addition to my functional capabilities, while I was good at it, this one behavioral, learning has helped me progress, my work getting done, because strategies at the end adds value when they are implemented. And
Absolutely.
now if I am good at collaboration, okay, I don't go, or I don't at least look to others as someone who is enforcing my ideas. I know how to influence, okay, and how to collaborate. They see value in what I am saying. Now my work is more easier and it gets done beautifully. So this revelation, when he says as a casual on a cup of tea conversation, I loved it. And I suddenly remember when you mentioned about importance of behavioral skill for marketing professionals.
Absolutely, Srinivas. I think this is not, to be honest with you, effectively addressed even now in the real sense, because as we evolve to become digitalized organizations, thanks to COVID and prolonged, we need more of the behavioral competencies coming to the fore, and not just the mere functional or the hygiene skills. It's also going to be these. And I think thanks for concurring and actually putting your viewpoint, because that really helps, to a large extent. I want to move to the second piece of our conversation, and that is, the last 18 months of COVID, right, has brought about so much of a dramatic change in the way we operate as an industry. And it has affected the companies, it has affected the functions. You have seen, being a veteran sales guy, everything, the sales model itself was forced to change. Customers could not get called upon, the entire calling model went for a toss. And as a result, marketeers were forced to adopt the non-physical or the digital means to reach customers, right? Same thing, sales calls were made in the digital world. And so you had them making calls on WhatsApp, you made them make calls on, digital mediums like iPads, etc., and trying to deliver the messages. Uh, the only objective of organizations was maintain sales continuity as much as possible, try and call on customers. And things have obviously, been shaping as we move along in the first and second wave. And it has impacted all of us. I have not asked L&D people, and this is why I wanted to ask you this question. How much was L&D or training impacted by this massive COVID-19 thing in the last 1.5 years? Were they also forced to undergo change? Obviously, trainings had to go online, etc. But what were the challenges you and your team in Biocon faced, and how did you, some major challenges, obviously, and how did you overcome them? And what's been your learnings, and how are you preparing yourself for encountering them better, or maybe so that if it were ever happen again? I just wanted to hear your some thoughts around this, if you have something to share.
Yeah, I think COVID has not left anyone, unchanged. Everyone is changed. So is the fraternity. However, in my view, the biggest impact has been, yes, you already called out that we had to move everything, from face to face, because That's the favorite platform for engaging with our customers, that is internal employees. When everything went virtual, that is actually the biggest challenge which we had faced. There is no shy in telling that we weren't trained to be as effective as we are on DIAS, to be similar effective professionals on virtual platform. So the first 3 to 5 months was not easy. We had to do it. We did mistakes, but hopefully me and my colleagues, we learned our lessons very fast. Company was quite supportive, so we, I think, learned over to come, and we also got onto newer platforms. We used to use a slight older platforms, and our technology team helped us to get to the platforms which are advanced, and now helping us to deliver flawlessly any intervention, learning intervention, whether it is knowledge building, whether it is even skill building. Okay, we can do actually experiential workshops.
Wow.
Okay, using online platforms. You can split them into group. You can build whiteboards and get them right on their thoughts. Get the people to interact. I still not say that it's same as real face to face, but yes, it is far better than when we were in the initial phase of lockdowns. Remembering April, May, June of 2020.
Right.
So I think that's been the message which I have learned, and I don't have any hesitation in sharing that. That's
Yeah.
important challenge which we faced, and it continues to be. It continues to be. Hopefully now we might be able to go back to normal. But however, interestingly, there is a feeling that there are also advantages of operating on virtual platform. Just simply every time you don't have to travel. If we can do meetings and interactions virtually, then we can weigh where actually we need to travel and meet, where we can do it. So I think that's one outcome which I was trying to influence earlier. Say, hey, can we do this digital? While we were not equipped, but we saw that vendors were quite equipped and they could help us do it beautifully.
Right.
But the belief of not only me having feeling that it's important to meet face to face, even leaders believe that meeting face to face has its own impact. So now the change is, they can see that virtual also works. So, they are okay to blend and prioritize where we actually need to have face to face and where we can continue. So I think that's the outcome, which is beautiful in the last 1.5 to 2 years.
The last one out. Amazing. That's a nice. That's the way I think most of the people have learned, forced to learn. Actually, it was a forced
Yes.
change upon by us because we never anticipated it. It landed one day on March 23rd, and it was quite a bit of a helter skelter for all of us, and we learned to manage that. Right. I want to pick your thoughts around, the how do I say, learning as a key personal trait rather than just as a function of an organization. Why I say this? All pharma companies have now, institutionalized L&D, that is learning and development, and it is supposed to, perform the function of equipping the knowledge, skills, everything for the person. I have a slightly different view, Srinivas, and I want to just pick your mind on this. Is learning today a responsibility of only the organization to provide? Or, as you rightly said, it has to be self-driven also? Why I say this is because I speak to my colleagues in different industries like FMCG, retail, etc. And the L&D professionals there have kind of radicalized the whole L&D piece. In a sense, they believe that learning has to be self-driven, self-pursuit, And today, nobody can complain of lack of access to knowledge and skills building.
Yes.
Today, the web is got millions of sites. I mean, I know people regularly getting certified on platforms like LinkedIn, Coursera, EDX, Unacademy, Udemy, so on and so forth, to improve their own professional, visibility, plus better job prospects. But also, organizations say, hey, you know what, we don't have the time to train you, maybe because we have to get this. And so you get trained yourself. And so many organizations are actually providing learning allowances, days off from work, etc. These are radical things which are happening. As an L&D specialist, and that too in pharma, whom we are still moving, slowly in that, do you think this can work? What's your thoughts around this radical piece of thinking? Do you encourage, first of all, your employees to get certified on these platforms other than your own in-house programs? How is it? How is the scene right now in pharma? I just thought of asking you.
No, L&D itself is under change. And one of the significant change is, what you actually say. I would use other words to tell the same story. Earlier, the learning professional were required to be trainer, means you facilitate learning.
Correct.
Or you provide learning, not only facilitate, but provide learning. But now you don't have to be a trainer. You should know where the learning sources are and what are the needs of the learners. And the key capacity required for the learning facilitator is to help them connect. So this can happen only if the learner are, have understood first of all what they want and are open to, self-learning. Because a lot of time in the past and even presently, a lot of time is spent in having someone help others learn. So there is a mindset which is going to take some time to change completely, move from someone is helping me to learn on my own. So during this change time, probably we may have to use both. Okay. Say, for example, younger generation. If you see people in, early 20s or late 20s, this generation is quite tech savvy. They also believe that learning should be short span. 21 days of induction takes their mind off. We still have that, okay? But I can see that how they receive or not receive such a long duration program versus someone who is tenured and has worked already with different companies and joins, another organization or our organization, how he receives this long tenured programs. So I just picked up the duration of the course as one of the example and how generations differ. So similarly, younger generations are ready to learn on their own if provided the opportunities. But tenured people, they still look for guidance. Okay, for them, important learning is where there is a specialist who comes and helps us learn from the knowledge he dawns upon. So while this change is happening, I think pharma industry, what best they can do is they can first focus upon the learning professionals itself. We should be trained on how to move from the 1st June to 2nd June. And also cultural change. If leaders start believing that, yes, this is the new trend and we must encourage, if they take the decision, I think, collaboratively, we can bring that change in the organizations, which is happening now. I'm happy to say that it is happening also with us, but I can also see not only in this company, but in the company where I work, but also across the other industries, they are picking up shorter duration programs, which are self-learning modules. Maybe 20% of the learning is now self-paced.
Self-paced, right. Self-paced, modular pace, do it at your own pace, get yourself certified like that happens in Coursera and EDX.
Absolutely.
And these are helpful, right? Would you agree these are helpful?
They are very helpful. They are very helpful. Another advantage is many of them allow you to go and use that resource again and again. Okay. Maybe you are certified, but that lesson is available for you. Whereas if facilitator goes off, may not be available again.
Yes.
So this is what I have not realized. This is what participant tells me.
Right.
I have put on my LinkedIn that I've completed the certification, but honestly, sir, I have learned only 30%. What I do is I visit that module again and again so that the remaining 70% I learn in next 1 week. So very beautifully he said, but I think it's a message from that experience that yes, people are accepting and there are advantages of self-paced learnings.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, I think, probably a food for thought for trainers and for L&D specialists to build different curriculum that factors this in, going back and doing it and providing him the ease of comfort so that he can do it at his own pace rather than just going through a structured intervention time and again.
Having 3 full days training, okay, calling everyone to attend the training. Yes, I'm not saying no, but at least one question should come when the training professional or learning professional is designing such programs, that is this group on this topic, is this the best model, or can I think of an alternative?
Exactly. No, that's beautiful. I think even a hybrid model of maybe a pre-read that goes off as a physical form plus an online and then a follow-up through a physical one. So you employ all the three actually in one go because the objectives can then be met. No, I think Srinivas is happy to hear a person like you have open thoughts around this whole L&D piece and the various platforms that can be used, digital, virtual, whatever it is. Because that brings me to my next question, which I'm sure you would love to answer, and that is, how much are we really driving innovation in L&D function? See, we've been all been through, at least me and you are of the same age, we've been through classroom training. Chalo yaar, 20 din ke liye baitho, subah se sham, detailing karo, customer call, all that stuff. That era has passed. Then we have, short-term duration trainings, induction for a week to 10 days, refresher trainings, capsular trainings, follow-up through, modules from the training managers, regional trainers, etc. Slowly, digital interventions are also coming. So the skills of trainers are also undergoing a change. But essentially, innovation has not been keeping pace, according to me, pardon me, like, new skills, like, for example, storytelling. Such an important piece, I'm sure you will understand, which is required today as a fundamental skill, because what's your story? That's what marketeers need to understand, salespeople need to understand, and L&D people need to equip with that. Any thoughts around this new skills, building in terms of capability? Because you are a capability building lead for your organization. I thought of asking you this. I don't know if I've asked the right question.
Oh, wow. Actually, the question is so right or so exciting that I have so many things to share. So
please go ahead.
So I'm going to take a little time to take one by one.
Oh, all yours.
Yeah. So the first bit, innovation within learning function. As I witness and as I network within the fraternity, people are innovating. Okay, there is a lot of innovation. Otherwise, adoption of digital for learning would have not happened. Just one of the example. But in my personal story, I would like to share one example that, say, for example, last year or 2 years ago, if I have to achieve one goal of building verbal communication skill for a group of 25 people, what would I have done? Okay, so I would have planned either an internal or an external training of someone who can, provide some tools and techniques for field people who could learn, few aspects which can enhance their verbal communication effectiveness. After that, probably after 2 days or 1 day or whatever, we would have given them some exercise which they can try on their own. Okay, to be very honest, 2 years ago, maybe I would have also done the same thing. But 2 days means 18 hours of training, maybe similar hours of journey, travel to, gather at one place. So 18 into 18, 36 hours of investment of the participant. Now, simple innovation need not be big, small innovations. So due to COVID, okay, I'm agreeing, this had to be worked out on virtual platform. And we tapped in with a facilitator. We co-created a model which do not focus on every aspect of verbal communication, because you can have a 6 months training. So expecting 25 people change their verbal communication, in few days is probably a miracle. But still, we did 2 hours, 3 modules. Monday before you start the work, Saturday after you end the work, and again some other Saturday or a Monday before you start the work. They interacted with a facilitator who had built-in content absolutely customized for specific needs of fieldman. I mean, because we had an advantage of having those people as an audience. So 6 hours there, but every week they came back with some experience saying, I tried this, I tried this. virtually for 30 minutes. 30-minute interaction weekly for next 4 weeks. Another 2 hours. Totally 6 hours. And out of 25, 17 of them significantly, they could show the change in their approach. Okay. In 2 techniques. Okay. It will get too elaborate if I tell what are the 2 techniques, but 2 techniques, if they use, they would be effective. That's how we trained them. And they learned it, they picked it up, they applied, and they came back with results saying, this is happening. And in one of the call, even their managers were there. They said, yes, my boy actually did this. And we have this customer converted only because he tried this technique. So what I could have achieved 2 years ago with, and I'm not saying a redundant methodology, it is still powerful. Face to face will not go out. But with small modifications, I think small innovations has yielded with just 6 hours of interaction, and learning. We have now a beautiful results. Okay, so I'm talked about small innovation. Now, another question, another element in your question was uh, storytelling. Okay, that's a my favorite topic nowadays. Why? Why? Because I've been trying to kind of influence leaders, not only within organization but outside also, in my friend circle, to pick up storytelling as a powerful leadership skill. Because the messaging, what can happen, we still remember our grandmother stories. Okay, but probably we might miss what my colleague has said a week back. So the impact is so long lasting because the message was delivered in a story form. As simple as that. No big brains needed to get this point. But it is not so easy to pick up stories which can deliver the message what you want to tell to your team. So I will try to pursue this endeavor. I've just started. If leaders pick up this skill of storytelling, I think their communications are going to be more powerful, more effective in terms of one key message they want to drive to their employees. So if I succeed in future in this, I think that itself will also be an innovation, because this is something which is not asked for. Generally, the training team delivers which is evidently seen as the need, or it is asked for. So if it is not now, but I hope with the times, if we achieve, probably this will be the next leaf in innovation within L&D.
Yes. No, I think Srinivas, you have really hit the nail on the head. And what's taken my attention completely is that how a seemingly innocuous innovation of making the learning modular intervention online as 2 hours before, 2 hours after on a Saturday, and again 2 hours, 6 hours, compared to the traditional model of 36 hours of 2 full days, 9 plus 9, 18 from your side and 18 from their side. 1/6, exactly 1/6 of that time is a huge time saving, huge cost saving. But more importantly, what struck me hard, and honestly speaking, is the level of delta that you are able to achieve in terms of people with speed, implementing it, seeing the results, because that is also very important, is very, very real time and useful for the organization. And I think that is important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you are a CEO, probably 10 years ago, your call was get our people good training.
Correct.
But CEOs have gone ahead, and today this call is not only get the good training, so what afterwards? How it has benefited.
Yes.
So that is pushing for innovation.
Yes. And the speed with which you're doing it is also very fast, because you want to develop a competitive advantage, against your competitor, like you said, right? And the manager has said he's converted that customer using that skill. So the deployment of that skill was faster because you spent 1/6 the time.
1/6 time, yes.
And so the results are, and it's amazing, right? And I think this could be a pilot which you can actually accelerate it down the organization in all across businesses. which is a food for thought for marketers as to why. Otherwise, only traveling or only physical is not really required at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes, forced innovations. Yes, we agree that there was a force behind why we came up virtual. But yes, there is a learning for everyone from this story, including me.
Right. Absolutely. Great. That brings me to the last piece of our conversation, Srinivas. It's been an absolute amazing conversation I've had with you in your journey so far, and how you've evolved from a trainer to a skill builder to a capability builder, and now you head up commercial capability building. If you could just allude as to what's your current role in Biocon Biologics in terms of commercial capability building for sales, marketing, etc. So how are you playing that front-ending role? It would be very nice to hear. Yeah.
Currently, I'm responsible. Commercial capability building works at sales capability, marketing capability, and also allied capabilities, which helps to build these two. That is, for example, managers capability. So we primarily are working this year with focus on sales and managerial capability, because our priority is to help the professionals succeed there with frequent changes what they face. One of the change, of course, as you know, everyone knows that face-to-face time with customer is less now, and it also, even if it is less, it's not very efficiently being able to manage with 30-second 20-second calls. So digital platform has come up with the solution, but people still need to know how to use it well. So we are focusing on there, and our endeavor is that, so that people become more effective in engaging customers, and we seen as professionals, because we truly believe that we are professionals, and we help our customers kind of manage the patients and their disease and disorders. We are not someone who just come there to sell a product or supply a product. So there is a huge difference between this approach and that approach, and when we want to be real professional there, I think you will have to display those professional skills in the shortest period of time of interaction. So that's our first focus. Second, yes, managers, I think either make or break. It's all-time favorite. It's never out of fashion. But we are revisiting, this piece of manager capability building, not because there is some challenge, but because we want them to upscale. They're good, how they can be better. The ones who are better, how they can be best. So the manager capability building should never have a pause. It must be continuous, so that with changing times, they know how to deal with those changes in their respective team and marketplaces. So these are some of the areas which we are working, and we're very passionate as an organization, and we want to see results through our endeavor.
Excellent. Srinivas, and that brings me to the last question. I always ask this. This is my favorite question I reserve for the last, which makes our L&D and even business heads pause and reflect. And I'm going to ask you that question is, your function by the very inherent nature is meant for upskilling, upscaling, reskilling people with new skill sets and competencies, and make them learn new facets of how to do business better. Do you also focus on what to unlearn along with what to learn? Because unlearning many of the old things is so very important, which doesn't hold any place in tomorrow's world, which is going to be very different. So sometimes does your team and you reflect, hey, are these skills really required in today's times, or we can do away with? So unlearning helps. Like, for example, in marketing, a lot of the concepts are getting unlearned and newer skill sets are getting added along the way. So is that something you also get time to pause and reflect upon, Srinivas?
Yeah, as you said, this question definitely puts people into thought, and it has put me also. Yeah. But as usual, I would not hesitate in telling what I actually feel.
Right.
Not many times, people spend time, including me, in realizing what must be unlearned. Because till we make space for, new things by eliminating old, we will not have much scope for learning new.
Yes.
So we must do that. That's my one claim. But what we have done, if I just see past, I think one, without saying we have to unlearn this, it has happened. And that is probably the point has come in the past in few questions which we have interacted, that over dependency on face-to-face training. Yeah. Yes, technology is there, and pharma had adopted from early 2010, and in the last 7-8 years, every pharma organizations have e-learning modules. I'm not saying no to that. That's already happening, but to what percentage? It was limited to 10%, 15%, 20% max. But when we were pushed to 100%, okay, digital learning, it has left us with a great learning that yes, it can be done. Going forward, probably I feel there would be a blended learning, and that itself, I think, is an example of unlearning. Yes, we didn't stand up and say, "Hey, listen, we must unlearn and learn." It happened, but at least we must be now humble enough to say that this is now the time to accept it and move forward.
Move forward. No, I think it's said very beautifully. Yes. So it's happened on its own, and that's how seamlessly it works. And I think, and it's as for all functions which are in value creation, I always tell my clients and my colleagues and like you, marketing, sales, training, L&D are all value creation functions for an organization, because you're skilling people, you're deploying them with processes, you're taking them to the next level of capacity and capability. So it's value creation. And in the whole process of value creation for the employee, we also need to do away or unlearn a lot of things, because they actually detract value rather than adding value. So you can't hope to add value if you don't take away some stuff. Otherwise, it gets too, conflicting at times. And that's why the point in time is you reflect and say, is this making sense for the business? And that's why that question was for you, Srinivas.
Great question. Thanks for putting me into thought.
No. It's just my pleasure to have you on this on our series, Srinivas, because I always wanted you to come as our esteemed guest, because you bring in a lot of rich wealth of experience in sales and now in L&D and training development. And I've seen you, from the scratch, and it's been a fantastic journey that you've had, and I've had the pleasure to see you grow and evolve. So it was very much my desire to have you. Thank you so much for being a part of our series today. And before we sign off, because it's exactly an hour to the episode, any last closing messages to our audience, for marketeers and salespeople, BU heads, they are our prime audience. Your closing messages from an L&D standpoint, sales standpoint, whatever it is from learning, if you can share with our audience, it'll be very nice.
Yeah, I think one message I definitely want to share, that while organization does the best to provide opportunities to learn, okay, there's also equal responsibility. The moment people think it is serious learning, okay, it must be done, it takes away steam from actually the purpose. So if nothing like having 10 participants who are eager to learn, then the outcome would be beautiful. Not only both will enjoy, learner will enjoy, facilitator will enjoy, but the best part is the outcome will be amazing. So there is necessity to learn, not just from L&D, okay, for your own career, for your own aspirations to be met. There is definitely need for learning. And if this becomes conscious among the employees, the leaders, not only for them but for their team members also. So if one step the organization puts forward to provide opportunities, I think two steps it would be favorable to have from the receiver's end. And I think that is probably a best example of collaborating and adding value out of it. Gone are the days when organization is happy to say we have done this training, because there is always a question, so what? Okay, beautiful, we have done so much, so what? The answer to so what can come only if both need and what is provided is matched. Yes. Also a message for learning professionals, that they must be constantly looking for identifying what is actually would be of value for our audience, not push through something which is mundane, already known, or just a little bit of learning. So we can, I think, unlearn that aspect, making every learning mandatory. It has to be, okay, 10%, 5% of learning could be mandatory, compliance, blah, 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 those aspects. But the learning has, the best outcomes can be achieved if both are, kind of coming with interest. And I think that's the best example of collaboration. And I seek one day we see, that ideal situation. Yes, accepting reality, it won't be ideal, but both can try and understand each other. I think that's my, piece of thought.
Thank you so much, Srinivas, for your closing messages. I think they are very relevant, very apt for our audience. Because like you, I fundamentally have always believed in this premise that learning never stops. Because the day learning stops, you stop growing actually. So learning is an eternal process till the last day. And I think, and as your second important, what you said is, it's not just a responsibility to the organization, it's also the fire within the person to learn newer things and shape himself to be more competent and more capable. You have said that so beautifully. Thank you so much, Srinivas. It was a pleasure, real pleasure having you on our series today and sharing your thoughts. I wish you well. And once again, a sincere thank you from me and from my organization.
Thanks to you also. I thoroughly enjoyed sharing. It's always good feeling to share what you feel, and not many times we get an opportunity, and you provided. I'm very happy to share what I feel. Thank you so much, Shailesh. Pleasure is
Thank you,
also.
Srinivas. The pleasure is all mine. Stay safe, stay connected, and we'll meet soon.